Hi everybody, today I will be drawing Wilson from the game Don't Starve Together. It's one of my favorite games and I've been really enjoying going through the characters and trying to draw them. So far I have drawn Wendy and she is up on my channel, so I will leave a link in the corner for you to go check that out if you would like to. I really enjoy Klei's art style for this game and I find it really whimsical, and it's definitely quite a challenge to take that and put it into a bit more of a realistic style that is what I am usually more comfortable drawing. For some background on Wilson, he is the base character of the game. He's the intro character for the solo game, so when you first start playing the solo game you have to unlock any of the other characters, and the person you start with is Wilson. He is pretty average. He doesn't have any big buffs, but he also doesn't have any huge weaknesses, so he's a pretty good character to learn with, which is why he's the first. I have played with him quite a bit in the solo game, but he's not usually my go-to in the together game. He's, like I said, average, so he doesn't really have anything very exciting about his mechanics. Wendy was one of my favorites for a while, and her buff is that she has Abby, who is really strong and she really helps in all the mob fights. She's not really great against bosses, but in the mob she's fantastic. But Wendy's weakness is that she's a little bit weaker on her own, so if you're trying to fight mobs without Abby, it can be a lot tougher, and also she takes a billion years to chop down a tree. She also, I don't think she runs as fast, so there's that too. But so that's a bit about Wilson. For this video I tried experimenting with some screen capture because I know that with the outward view it can be a bit easy to lose track of what's happening in the image, and so you might not know where to look in the video, and the screen capture definitely is easier to show details for when I zoom in and what I'm actually doing, so hopefully it'll help a bit with being able to follow along with what I'm doing, although please bear with all the twisty turns of the page. It's definitely a thing for artists to move their page all over the place so that they can use their arm and not break their wrists while they're trying to draw. Wilson was definitely a bit of a challenge for me to draw. Apart from what I mentioned before with Klei's art style being very whimsical, he is also a male and I'm definitely more comfortable drawing females, so I definitely had to look up a lot of references of what men look like and what they look like wearing waistcoats. So I hope I did it somewhat justice and it doesn't look too horrible. I find it really interesting, the differences between like male anatomy versus female anatomy, and how it reads really obviously in person, but when you're drawing it, it can be really little things that can make it read wrong. And I struggle a bit with this because Klei's portrayal of Wilson is that he has a very pointy chin, which can definitely in art read more feminine, so I had to try and balance between a square jawline and a pointy chin. And this character definitely suffers from big head syndrome, which a lot of my characters do, and it's something that I am constantly having to try and change, which I like digital art because I can just like circle it and drag it down but I did not do that for this one. I think men, I find harder to make them have smaller heads just because they have the square jaw and maybe more of a square face often, so they end up having bigger heads, I guess. I'll have to analyze more male images to figure out what it is and pinpoint how I can make sure that they read men, although I think I did okay with Wilson. I was pretty proud and I like his style. I have really been enjoying using Procreate and their touch shortcuts, so the coloring is a lot easier because you can just outline and then drag the color in and fill it and things like that, and it's really easy to learn. I've watched quite a few YouTube videos on it, but it's pretty intuitive once you get to know Procreate just a little bit. I have drawn in Procreate, not Procreate, Photoshop, but I find that having a drawing tablet and a keyboard can get pretty bulky, and also it can break your immersion to try and stop drawing, to make sure that you're pressing the right keys to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. So that's another reason why I really like the touch shortcuts of Procreate. I do know that you can get drawing tablets with side buttons that help with that, although they're pretty expensive, I think. I was trying a new shading technique for this video, so I was watching some YouTube videos previously, and one thing that kind of stuck with me was that if you see cool light highlights, then often the shadow would be warm and vice versa. So if the highlights are warm, then the shadows are cool. For this, I did a cool shadow and tried to do a warm light. I probably could have gone a little bit warmer with the highlights, but I didn't want it to look like there was fire on his face or anything, so I stayed maybe a bit too cool for the highlights. But I think it gives kind of an eerie, serious vibe to the painting, which is pretty appropriate for the game. I think it's got quite a dark nature, and so here you can see that I'm using purple for the shadow and then yellow for the lighting, and I was really happy with how metallic the science machines ended up looking, and I'm just adding some wood texture here. I'm really not sure what this other device is. I don't think I've ever used it in the game. If you know what it does, can you please let me know in the comments below? It might be from the new update, which I have only dipped my toes into a little bit, and I'm definitely excited to try and do more with the new farming update. But I definitely have no idea what this thing is supposed to do, or if it even really exists in the game, but I definitely thought it looked cool when I was looking up science devices for DST, so hopefully it's in the game, and I think it looks pretty cool, and I think it definitely speaks to Wilson's character a lot. And so the last thing that I did was draw some trees in the background, and then I figured out how to add a bit of a blur to push all of the background stuff into the background, so that Wilson stood more in the foreground. If you have a favorite character in DST, let me know down below what it is and why they're your favorite. And if you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.